Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Queen City Toastmasters. Tonight's going to be an unusual meeting. We're going to have our regular table topics, but we're also going to have Leon as a speech. He's going to be doing table topics because he's competing this Thursday for our club doing table topics. And Andrea is going to evaluate him because Thursday she's competing in the division contest as an evaluator. So we're kind of playing with the two of them, but everybody else is going to get to speak because we have plenty of time tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our presiding officer. Believe it or not, Elvis is still in the Dominican Republic, but he says he's driving home or he's flying home tomorrow. So we'll see him next week. So with that, I'll turn it over to Elvis. I mean, not Elvis, Eric. Ease.
No, Elvis is on the camera. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. And Elvis, if you hear me and you would like to take over this duty as presiding officer, please go ahead and start speaking within the next 5 seconds. If you do not, then I will continue.
Thank you so much, Eric. I can hear, but since my internet was too bad and I don't have too much lightning, I didn't want to submit everybody to the pain of not listening well. So you can go ahead and introduce the members, and it's good to be here. I will be listening in and leave you to continue with the introductions.
Okay, thank you very much, Elvis. And we do not have any guests online. We do have one guest here, and that is Xavier. And although you are familiar to us, we will give you an opportunity to introduce yourself. And if you'd like to say anything we don't know yet about you being here, please feel free to do so.
Good evening, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Xavier, and I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with Toastmasters, so I look forward to another great night.
Okay, thank you very much and welcome back again. So, and I see we have one other guest coming in. Welcome. Are you a guest? If you would like to introduce yourself and just tell us how you found us, you're welcome to. If you want to wait till the end, you can too. You'd like to do it now? Fantastic. Okay, come up front. What's your name? Please give Michael a big hand to our meeting.
Name's Michael, and I've had issues with talking in front of people for my whole life, and I figure it's time to get some practice with that and get that handled. So that's why I'm here. I found it online.
You're off to a great start. Thank you. With that, I am delighted to introduce our Toastmaster of the evening, who is none other than our past president. Please join me in giving a very warm welcome to Vanessa Waller.
Thank you, Eric, and welcome Toastmasters, and a special welcome to our two guests, Xavier and Michael. Great to have you here tonight. So given that just yesterday was the official first day of spring, I thought that would be a good theme for tonight. And we are unfortunately still having a little bit of a cold snap here in Charlotte, but looking forward to some warmer, true spring weather coming up this weekend, we hope. For me, spring is such a fun time. It's one of those seasons that is kind of associated with newness, freshness, a lot of optimism. The flowers start to bloom, you start to see more green coming into the foliage, especially here in Charlotte. I always think of Disney movies, like the movie Bambi, where you see these cute little deer and bunny rabbits and butterflies. And so for me, when I think of spring, it's a very happy time of year. Depending on what you're in the middle of or what you're dealing with, it may be happy, it may be kind of a lot of work. I know I'm in the bucket of certainly catching up on work this week. But regardless, to me, it's a time to reflect, especially because we've had a few months now of the new year. And I like to look back on some of the goals I've set for the year and kind of assess where I am with those goals and think about the future and maybe make a course correction here and there if I want to make a change and really hit those goals. But before we jump into what I hope will be a spring themed and very optimistic happy meeting tonight, I want to bring up a member who will be providing some either inspiration or humor to start off our meeting on the right foot. And that is our inspiration / joke master. Please help me welcome Andrea Chocolate Butterfly Williams.
Good evening. So this weekend, well, last weekend, I ventured out on a great adventure. I got on the road and I had my path set. And then something happened. In a blink of an eye, I found myself under a bridge in a tree. I realized at that moment that God kept me here. He gave me another chance to speak up. He gave me another chance to say to somebody else that you should pursue your dreams, because just because something derails your plan doesn't mean you can't get to your set destination. I made it to my destination safely without my car, but I made it to my destination safely. You can make it to your destination safely. You may be hurt. You may be a little bruised. You may have broken bones, or you may just come out with the grace and the thankfulness that you're still here and you have another chance. How many today will remember, don't let a small accident derail your plans? Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I love that idea of being safe and arriving at your destination safely. And I love that metaphor of carrying yourself and your goals all the way to the end. I also think on the topic of spring tonight, I was thinking about how a lot of people are inspired by the nicer weather to go out and enjoy the outdoors. There's a lot of drivers on the road driving frantically trying to get to their next activity. And so that has in fact made me think quite in a literal sense of how I want to be safe about driving and getting from A to B safely in this season of high energy and growing sunlight and optimism. So thank you for that beautiful metaphor. And our next helper of the evening is someone who will help us all keep track of those pesky filler words that I know I still have to work on myself. Things like you name it, any of our filler words that we use as a crutch. And that is our grammarian. Please help me welcome Milton Pizarro.
Okay, finally. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and good evening. And so my name is Milton. I'll be your grammarian or grammar police, per se. The word of the day today is nascent. Given the fact that we are pretty much into spring, I don't know, approaching spring, we're kind of in the beginning of spring, I figured I'd use this wonderful, beautiful word. It is an adjective, and the definition: just coming out to display into existence and beginning to display signs of future potential. So I figure, you know, it's a time, it's not really spring just yet. We're kind of creeping into spring. We do still have many cold mornings like we did this morning. So it's just popping up into us. What is my role? I will be looking for tone. I'll be looking for grammar usage, delivery, something I can definitely improve upon myself. I just said, you see that? I'll be looking for filler words, and stuff like that. And that's about it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Milton. Very creative choice of word, and I love how it fits in with our theme as well. So our next helper is very important because, as we all know, if we are asked to give a presentation, there's usually a time limit involved. And that is something that factors into all of our Toastmasters speeches and also our short impromptu table topics, which are coming up soon. But we need a timer to help us keep track of how long we've been talking so that we don't talk for too long without realizing it. And with that, I'll welcome up our timer, who incidentally, I believe is also our main speaker tonight, Leon White. So Leon, thank you for filling in double roles tonight. And we hope that we can have someone fill in your timer role while you are speaking as well.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Vanessa, how is everybody doing today? Good? For the second day of spring, but it still feels a bit like winter because of the bipolar nature of the weather here in North Carolina. But so today I'm your timer, and the importance of having a timer is, of course, whenever giving a speech, it's respectful to your audience and also whoever hires you or asks you to speak to stick to the agenda, meaning sticking to your time slot. So today I will be tracking the time of our speeches. So for our normal speech, which is typically 5 to 7 minutes, the green light will come on at 5 minutes. The yellow light will come on at 6, and the red light will come on at 7. Another area that we'll be timing is table topics. And our table topics master today will go a little bit deeper into what table topics is. But for table topics, you generally want to try to speak for at least 2 minutes or at least a minute. And so at 1 minute, the green light will come on. At 1:30, the yellow light will come on. And at 2 minutes, the red light will come on. Another area that we'll be timing is our evaluators, which speaks for 2 to 3 minutes. So at 2 minutes, the green light will come on. At 2 minutes and 30 seconds, the yellow light will come on. And the red light will signify 3 minutes. It will come on at the 3-minute mark. Now, each speaker, once they see the red light come on, you have 30 seconds to wrap it up. So as soon as you see that red light come on, definitely try to land your speech as gently as you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. And I especially loved your metaphor of landing your speech, kind of like landing an airplane, because that's exactly how it feels when you see that red light and you realize, okay, it's time for me to wrap up my remarks and bring this speech in for a graceful landing without too many bumps along the way. And Leon, I know I'm going to have to call you up again soon, but before I do you have someone to time you while you're practicing your table topics? Maybe someone can jump up and say, hey, I'm free.
Yes, I do. Alan will be timing.
Alan, awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. Appreciate it. Well, for those of you who don't know, our very own Leon White will be competing in the Division C contest this Thursday. I believe it's at 7:30. Correct me if I'm wrong. 6:30 on Zoom. So we are so happy that Leon has advanced to the Division C contest level. And to prepare for that, because he will be competing with impromptu speaking, we are going to have Leon be filling in our speech segment tonight with actually some practice table topics. And I believe that Eric, our VP of Education, is providing some sample table topics questions that are going to resemble the actual contest to give an opportunity to practice those impromptu speaking skills. And for those who are new to table topics, this is a great opportunity to learn how that works. And you'll get a chance right after Leon is finished. As you're so inspired by hearing him speak, you'll get a chance to jump up on stage and try it yourself shortly. But with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Leon and Eric, who will kick off our contest preparation table topics.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening again, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Thank you, Leon, for that round of applause. So I thought what we would do is maybe do 3 questions, and if we have time for any additional ones, we could do those as well. And I'm going to follow the format in asking the question the way they do the question in the contest, which for those of you who have not seen a contest, and Leon, as you know, we state the contestant's name, we ask the question, we then repeat the question, and we repeat the contestant's name. And then the timing should actually start when he is starting his answer. It could be verbally that he's starting to speak, or it could be that he's giving a gesture that is consistent with beginning his answer. So, Leon White, which one of your personality traits helps you the most? Which one of your personality traits helps you the most? Leon White.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. If I was to have to answer the question, which one of my personality traits helps me the most, I would undoubtedly have to say that it's the one that's going to help me win this competition, which is my wittiness. For the most part, much of my life, even growing up, always just having a sense of awareness has always allowed me to navigate many different situations. And from this has allowed me to also gain a level of wittiness to kind of think on my feet with little to no hesitation. And one of the beautiful things about this is, even as a kid, sometimes it got me in trouble. Sometimes I said things that I weren't supposed to say. Or in the case of now me being an adult, it also helps me out in my meetings when I'm not paying attention on Zoom or Teams and my boss decides to call on me to ask me a question. And so it is also important that we all think a little bit about what are some of the things and personality character traits that we have that helps us to get through our day. Because all too often, a lot of us like to focus on our weaknesses and trying to improve our weaknesses. Now, that's okay, but that's also what teamwork's for. Finding people who are strong where you are weak so that you can also double down on your strengths to make more income, make more friends, have a better time, have a more fulfilling life. So I would have to say that it's my wittiness is the most distinguished personality trait that helps me, again, to win this competition. And so that's how I would want to answer that question. Master table topics.
Okay, thank you. We will go through the same, asking the question the same way. The next question. Leon White, who has inspired you the most in your life? Who has inspired you the most in your life? Leon White.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. Who has inspired me the most in my life? It would be hard to pin that down to specifically just one person or one thing, because the way that my mind works is I find inspiration in lots of people, and I find inspiration in lots of things. Now, of course, there are people like my grandfather, who was a civil rights leader, actually just retired last year at 91 from ministry, 61 plus years of ministry. He would be somebody that I would undoubtedly say has most inspired me in my life. But on the topic of finding inspiration from everyone and everything is, I find a piece of myself in everyone that I speak to. Somebody that I can relate to, find that sense of human connection. And I also find that a lot of times when I'm out in nature or I'm engaging with different groups of people or an audience, as I see them kind of as one consciousness, which has also helped me a bit in my public speaking career, is being able to see a group of people as one center kind of consciousness and speaking to that. And so part of me finding inspiration in all these different things in different areas has definitely helped me to push through some of my most difficult times in life. Now, for example, if any of you all have got the chance to hear my icebreaker speech about me traveling and visiting all these wonderful places, I always recall finding inspiration in the nature and the ecosystems that I visited because it helped me to further understand myself. Master Table Topics.
Thank you. Okay, third question. Leon White, if you could speak to high school students for 1 hour, what would you talk to them about? If you could speak to high school students for 1 hour, what would you talk to them about? Leon White.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. If I had 1 hour to speak to a group of high school students, there's many different things that I could tell them, such as don't drink and drive, don't have unprotected sex, and also to make sure that you still clean your room before you decide to run off if you happen to have a license. But undoubtedly, one of the things that I would tell them as they enter this nascent journey that they're going to partake in once they graduate high school is I would definitely tell them to take some time after high school to get a little bit clear on the things that they are interested in, not what they want to be, not what they think is going to make the most money, but think about the things that keep them up at night, the things that they dream about, the things that inspire them, the things that move them emotionally. And I would say spend a year discovering and following what that thing is. See, the fortunate thing about getting out of high school is even though you're adult by societal standards, in many eyes, many people look at you still as a child for the most part. And so you can use that to leverage to find mentors, find the help, find the support, and find the information that you need to discover the most deepest parts of yourself, as opposed to potentially having some quarter life crisis because you're about to turn 30 before you know it and you still don't quite know what that thing is. And so if I had an hour to speak to high school students, I would tell them to spend their time analyzing the things that they enjoy, the things that move them emotionally, the things that they dream about, and the things that keep them up at night, and do the heavy lifting prior to getting a little bit later in life. Master Table Topics.
Madam Toastmaster, do we have time for one more table topics question?
Good question. Let me check our agenda. I think we probably do. You know what? Yes, let's go ahead. We can do one more.
Okay, all right, thank you. Final question. Leon White, what is your proudest accomplishment and why? What is your proudest accomplishment and why? Leon White.
Thank you. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. You know, next month, or not even next month, but in May, I'll be turning 30. And for a lot of people, that seems to be a huge milestone in life. But I also think a very interesting milestone is to be 30 and not have kids and to not be married. And for some people, I know that kids and marriage bring a whole lot of joy, but I also say it's an accomplishment in the fact that you can still enjoy life without those things. And to the degree of understanding that it's okay and you don't have to rush your timeline. But even more specifically thinking to that, as I look back on my 20s, as I'm now approaching 30, is one accomplishment that took a huge amount of courage for me to do was to pack one bag, buy a one-way ticket, and spend 14 months backpacking across Europe, Panama, and South America. And the reason I see that as one of my biggest accomplishments, because it went against the grain of what other people were telling me my timeline should be. And part of the reason I see that as such a huge accomplishment, and even potentially a token of inspiration for those that have something that they're fearful about doing, or may go against the grain of what people typically tell you should do with your life at a particular age, is to understand that through that experience and looking back on it, I begin to realize just how much of a global citizen I am. I also begin to learn more about myself, about my fears, and also a lot more getting in tune with my own joys and ups and aspirations. And overall, to come back from that experience and not only have to deal with reverse culture shock and also overcoming that, when looking back at that experience, I see it as one of my largest accomplishments because it taught me the sense of owning my own journey and following it through. Master Table Topics.
Thank you, Toastmaster Leon. We will now turn the meeting back to our Toastmaster of the day, Vanessa. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, for those excellent questions, and Leon for a marathon table topics session that you just accomplished. That was very impressive. I don't think I've ever seen one person do several table topics in a row. And in particular, your point about turning 30, I just turned 30 last month. And so I definitely relate to that. I think that's a really thought-provoking answer you gave. I don't know if we need a timers report for Leon's table topics, or if Alan, if you have a record of how the timing went, just so Leon can know for the contest on Thursday.
Yes, thank you, Vanessa. So I'm happy to report that on all 4 of Leon's table topic speeches, they were in the allotted time. And I don't know if Eric touched up on this earlier, but for contest purposes, you have to speak for at least 1 minute. So question number 1, your favorite personality trait, that was 1 minute and 55 seconds. Question number 2, I can't read my own writing, but you spoke for 1 minute and 50 seconds on whatever that question was. Question number 3, what would you speak about with high school students? That was 2 minutes and 9 seconds. And the last question, your proudest accomplishment, that was 2 minutes and 14 seconds. So good job.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alan. And great job, Leon, sticking within the time guidelines. It's deceptively difficult. All right. Well, I know we've heard a few inspiring table topics examples from Leon, and now is your chance. If you've ever wanted to practice your impromptu speaking, to go ahead and jump in and do some table topics of your own. And to introduce our section on table topics, please help me welcome Nick Foster. Unless we're changing up the, sorry if I'm misreading.
Nick is not here.
Got it. All right. We'll have Heather. Thank you.
I'm Heather. I'll be in charge of table topics tonight. They're impromptu questions, just like you just witnessed. You don't have to be as formal, or you can be casual. It's just about getting up here, practicing speaking in front of all of us in a safe, comfortable environment. And then the timer's just there to assist with your timing. It's okay if you don't come in on time or you go over a little bit, that's okay too. It's just to get up here and get the repeats in. So I will call on people randomly. I think that will make it better for me to get volunteers. Bill, would you like to volunteer? Okay. I have a good one for you, Bill. If you were president for a day, what would your first action be for the country? No pressure.
Thank you. If I was president for one day, what would my first action be? Good afternoon. Thank you all for inviting me here or allowing me to come here. As the first thing as a president, I think the first thing would be to give some of the people's money back. We have been taxed a lot for over the years. Granted, we have a huge deficit that we have a huge budget. I agree with all that. But at the same time, if you look back over history, our country was funded in large part by tariffs, and that the income tax didn't come into being until quite late in, I guess, you're taking the 200 or so many years that the country's been around, 300 years, almost, well, 250. So that would be one of the things I think that would be people would like, because then they could take what they gained and earned, and we shift the things over to essentially like, what do you call that? Sales tax. So everybody would be taxed, but they don't know what their sales. So if you had a rich guy who wants to buy a yacht, that's going to be a lot of taxes from that sale for that. But if someone wanted to go out there and buy bread and milk, obviously that would be a lot lower. So that would be the first thing I would do as a president, was to eliminate or reduce taxes. But one of the ways to do that would be through eliminating the income tax and shift over to a large sales tax. And thank you for the question.
Thank you, Bill. I think that was an excellent answer. We all want to save money, especially this time of year during tax season. Okay. Come on up. Cats or dogs, and why?
Thank you, ma'am. Well, first and foremost, let me get the word of the day out of the way. As a nascent speaker, I think it's important to use the word of the day. Cat or dog? I'd have to go with dog because they are so faithful. And one of my biggest values as a human being is being faithful. Faithful to others, faithful to family, friends, and such. So not only that, they're pretty easy to relate to. I mean, who are we kidding? They love you no matter what, right? So you can have a bad day, they love you. You have a good day, they love you. So cats are a little harder, right? You got to work for their affection. Got to learn whole lot about them. Not that I don't like to learn about people, don't get me wrong, but animals are different, right? Or so I say, right? So with that being said, and without continuing to ramble on and find things to talk about, because it is a pretty easy question, right? Cats, dogs. I'd have to go with dogs. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody like to volunteer? Want to join us? Thank you. What are some of your favorite springtime activities as the weather's getting warmer?
Is it going? Thank you, Toastmasters and honorable guests. That is a great question. Come from Michigan. I've experienced all four weathers, all four seasons, I would say. Been in North Carolina. Some can argue that there's 4 seasons. Others can argue that there's 3 seasons. Others can even go a step further and argue that there's only 2 seasons. And that is summer and fall. It doesn't get too cold, hardly ever snows. Me personally, I think that there's only 3 seasons. That's spring, summer, fall. Skips over winter. So to go back to the question, what do I look forward to in the spring? There's the mountains. I enjoy North Carolina mountains. There's the beaches. North Carolina beaches are the best. So with that said, that's what I look forward to in North Carolina.
Thank you, Xavier. I appreciate it. We do have beautiful mountains and beaches. It's really nice. Okay, do we have time for more?
We do. We actually have a time for quite a few more. And if you run out of questions, let me
Carla?
know and I might be able to come up with something.
Thank you. Carla, do
Yes.
you think impromptu speaking should be taught in school?
Do I think impromptu speaking should be taught in school? Absolutely. I think the days of doing this all the time and talking like this has made the skill of communicate. Of all the moments, I'm having a gas leak and the plumber just came. So let me just move outside over. Don't count this time. Whew, thank you. They just made gas in my house. Of all the skills that I think are being lost with our young people, it's definitely the ability to communicate. I don't think they're able to take ideas and express them fully and to analyze them because they're spending a lot of time doing this in sound bites and in emojis. And that communication and talking helps you to think through ideas. And if you're not practicing that, if you're not having conversation, if you're not having dialogue, if you're not having debate and learning that, then you're not ready to really take on the bigger issues that are happening in the world. With that in mind, I would say, need more impromptu speaking, need speaking just in general, maybe some speech classes, acting. And as a person who is a nascent to theater, I think they need to have more theater too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carla. I totally agree. My daughter was taking a public speaking class online, and it wasn't even a Zoom. It was her just doing this is a college, her just doing a video of herself recording and sending it in. That's actually how I ended up here because I brought her here. So I was like, we need more than this. Okay, so we have time for more still? Alan? As a veteran of Toastmasters, what do you feel that you've gained? What valuable asset do you feel like you've gained from being here the most?
Well, thank you for that carefully curated question, Heather. I've given this speech before and have done themes for the meeting as a Toastmaster at other clubs. All people come primarily to improve their speaking skills and also work on their leadership skills. But there are multiple other intrinsic rewards of being in Toastmasters, which is why I keep coming back. And interestingly enough, April 1st, and this is not a joke, will mark 5 years since I joined. Over the last 5 years, I have made dozens, if not hundreds, of friends on multiple clubs that I visited. I have acquired a lot of marketable skills through all the different leadership roles I've taken on for the club level or even the district level. I've also learned, probably most importantly, when you're giving a speech, about being vulnerable and learning how to open up to other people, because it's more than just the technical aspect of learning how to speak. It's also about showing your true self, being as authentic as possible, and sharing some of your deepest stories that hopefully other people will find at least some facet to relate to. Without Toastmasters, I don't know if I would have ever openly shared with total strangers my struggles with my mental health, or with coming out, or last year when I got scammed on a dating app. It takes a lot of guts to come up here and just talk in general, but to really show your most authentic self and share some of your biggest struggles is one of the biggest rewards, on top of the others I just mentioned. So hopefully, as many of you progress in your journey, I hope that you'll follow suit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're good?
We have
still
time for
time?
2 more. We have time for about 2 more.
Do you have a question that you would like to ask?
Yes, I can come up with a question.
Melissa?
Hi, Melissa. Welcome. All right, my question to you is another spring-related question. If you were given a garden where you could plant lots of flowers, but you could only pick one type of flower, which flower would you pick for your garden?
This is a great question because I'm a person that does not have a green thumb at all. And I have to laugh about that because my mother-in-law always comes over to my house randomly throughout the year and will plant something new somewhere around the house. And she will tell me, this is how you take care of this. And I still kill it. So I am not a great person, and I hope I don't have a garden because I would not keep things alive. But if I had to select one type of flower, if you are in the area, excuse me, in Plaza Midwood, there's one house that has all these beautiful flowers out front, and I think they're tulips. I'm pretty sure that's an easy one. And they're all different colors, and it's just so beautiful. Every time we go on a walk, they blossom right around now, and they are all colors of the rainbow. All these like little kids run up to them, and they're so beautiful. So if I had to pick one thing to try to keep alive for a couple of weeks during the year, because I assume that's all they last, it would be tulips. Thank you for your question.
Awesome. I absolutely love tulips, and I love how they come in so many different colors. I think that's an excellent choice. And in a way, you're getting through the loophole of only having to pick one because they come in so many different colors. Do we have one more table topics volunteer? Like someone's raising their hand, but I can't quite see.
Yeah, Eric, we have Eric.
Eric, awesome.
It's a no. There's no, it's their nose.
Thank you.
All right, Eric. My final question, again, on the spring theme. We all know that spring is a time for lots of new, fresh fruits and vegetables at the farmer's market. My question is, if you could make an ideal spring recipe to enjoy for dinner, what type of recipe would you make for a spring meal?
Thank you for that question, Madam Toastmaster. What would I make for a spring meal? There are a lot of things I would make for a spring meal. And one of the beautiful things about going to the market is not just how flavorful the foods are that you could buy, but also how colorful the foods are. And there are actually certain eating philosophies, like Ayurveda as an example, where they teach people to eat based upon colors. So even if you don't worry about the individual nutritional elements of foods, if you choose foods with a variety of vibrant colors, then you're going to be getting the nutrients that you need in that food. So just to name a few examples, one of the things I really love is corn, especially the white and yellow corn, which some people refer to as peaches and cream. It's delicious. The second thing I love are sweet potatoes. Believe it or not, there are actually been studies done at different parts of the world. There's something called blue zones. Blue zones are areas on the planet where people have unusual longevity, and the food that they eat has been studied. And one of the most frequently consumed foods in blue zones are actually sweet potatoes. So I would have corn and I would have sweet potatoes. The other type of food that I really love is cabbage. And the cool thing about cabbage is it comes in different colors. And the color that I would pick will be purple. So although there would be other items that I would include in foods that I would pick at the market, if we just look at 3 really nice colored and nutritional foods, I would pick corn, sweet potato, and purple cabbage. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Eric. I think all those foods sound not only very healthy and nutritious, but also very flavorful. And you're giving me some good ideas for meal planning coming up in the next few months. That's for sure. Thank you. All right, it's now time to check in with our timer to see how our table topics participants did in terms of sticking to those timing guidelines. So Leon, if you want to give us a quick rundown.
Yes, sure, Vanessa. So that was a great round of table topics. It feels good to kind of be able to share the ability to have multiple people try their hand in table topics. I have Phil, who came in at 1 minute and 47 seconds. I had Milton, who came in at 1 minute and 27 seconds. Xavier came in at 1 minute and 2 seconds. Good job. Had Carla come in, even with the pause of, I think she said she had a plumber or someone come and visit. So I paused the clock for you, and you came in at 1 minute and 24 seconds. Alan came in at 1 minute and 54 seconds. Melissa came in at 1 minute and 4 seconds. And Eric, you came in at 1 minute and 58 seconds. And then also, I would like to add real quick, this is something that popped in my head as I was reflecting on kind of going through this rapid fire of table topics questions. And this is probably something also for the guests and people who are here looking to improve their public speaking ability, is going through my pathway, which is kind of like a curriculum of public speaking that you get when you sign up for Toastmasters. And I recently completed level 1. And some of the things that it talks about in level 1 is vocal variety, body language, how to articulate, build a speech, make it relate, and have it to be impactful. And one of the things that I found during that session of rapid fire table topics is my ability to call on those things in an impromptu kind of a setting, which was kind of a testament to kind of learning those skills and being able to practice them even in an impromptu setting. And as I think about the things that I want to improve on when it comes to public speaking, such as storytelling and even telling better jokes to get people to laugh, I look forward to learning those skills and kind of achieving the ability to do those skills if I can do them in an impromptu setting where I don't have to think twice about it. So that's just something that I wanted to share with you all.
Wonderful.
And back to you, Vanessa.
Thank you, Leon. Appreciate it. And I really appreciate you stepping in to not only do the equivalent of a full speech tonight, but also step in to be our timer. It's incredibly helpful. Appreciate it. The next segment of our meeting is really important because it helps us reflect on how well everyone did and help us all improve. So please help me welcome our general evaluator tonight, Melissa Hutchinson.
Thank you, Vanessa. This is my first time in this role, so hopefully I have it all together. Couple of things that I will do tonight. One is introduce our evaluator. We only had one speech today, so we'll have one evaluator. Then we'll go to a timer's report. I'll give my overall evaluation of the meeting tonight, and then we'll get the grammarian's report. So first, I'd like to introduce again Andrea Chocolate Butterfly Williams as our evaluator for our speech.
Okay. Leon. So I did your evaluations based on the ballots that you would be using, which they will be using for the contest. So in order, I'm going to start with the first one, the first, second, third, fourth. It'll be first, second, third, fourth. So your fourth speech was your highest speech as far as ballot tallies. Your first speech was the second. Your third speech was third question was your third, and I have all this, you don't even have to write it down. And your second speech was your least points that you received. With that being said, you did some very good things that you taught people how to do. And we can tell that you've been practicing on your own, not just here. So let me get my mouse because it's easier, just easier. So one thing that you did that was very well, you used the stage. You didn't stand still, and you let us know that you wanted us to pay attention to you. Sometimes you did that just a bit too much, but for the most part, it was great. So keep that. If you can do it at home, it will be at home. So if you can do that and stay in the screen, it will be great. So that was that, but you did some very good things. So one thing you did in your first speech, you turned the question into a story. You didn't just tell us, which one of your personality traits helps you. You didn't use that as just, oh, well, it was just me being witty. You actually told us why wittiness is good. For instance, that you weren't paying attention on Zoom, which I don't do all the time either. So, and then you hear your name called and you're like, oh, hey, how you guys doing? So it kind of gets you through. So that was great. I connected with that. I'm sure others did too. And your second speech, something you did very well. You threw us a curveball, but it was still relevant to the question of what inspired you the most in life. And it was not just one person. You did not just one person or thing. And I thought about, being a little kid when they talk about person, place, or thing. And that was really cool because most people would have just said, oh, well, this person inspires me or this place inspires me. They would chose one or the other. You have a way of giving us a plethora of things. That was great. The next thing you did well in your last speech, it was the way you started the speech. It came off as, I am sure about this answer, because you took your personal story. So we both have these, everybody has a coin story most times, a coin message. His coin message is take time, go on a trip, learn about yourself, and you went into that. Now, when you did that, you were so much more confident than when you were trying to think about what this question is and what you were trying to do. With that being said, because of those thought processes, I could tell you were thinking, not unlike in the last question of your proudest accomplishment, you stopped breathing. So you had random thoughts. So you were giving us random statements. The other thing, you started on the question number 3, where you were talking about the high school students. If you started in the middle, when you were talking about the things you dream about, get joy from, and keep you up at night, if you started there, that would have been a much better answer rather than repeating the question, because you have a tendency to repeat the question. So then because of that, and the question number 2, what inspires you the most, you had no ending because you had no time. Okay. And you did have time. Now that I'm looking at it, you had 1.5. I don't know why you stopped. So make sure you always give us a call to action at the end. That question you did not. And that's why it was the lowest points given on that question. And once again, jump in it. Don't repeat the question. We already heard the question. You may be the 4th person, so they've heard the question 4 times now. So they don't need to hear it again. Take that time for yourself before you start. Put your points together, what you want to speak on, and jump into it. Find that spot. Like when you said, think about your joy. I mean, go right into, just head on, go right into it. And I know I'm going over, I don't care. Because this is for you. And then the last thing was, I noticed that you elongate words instead of taking a breath. Use that pause. So you were like, two. So instead of that, just say two and give yourself that couple of seconds so that you can breathe and think. That's what the pause is for. So you can breathe and think. And then it'll be more succinct when you give your answer. Overall, wonderful job. You know, great starting system. Careful language. Oh, that was the other thing. Be careful of the words that you use. Because at one point on that first question, you used weren't paying attention. And it wasn't paying attention. And I know that some people are very particular because they've judged me and I've heard them say it. Okay. They will find the least little bit of thing to grab onto, and you don't want them to grab onto that stuff. So just take your time and get that. I think I got everything. Oh, the personal, keep it personal. You talked about your trip. You talked about your grandfather. Those are things that people will grab hold to and remember. It's not what they say. It's not what you do or give people or say. It's how you make them feel. And that made me feel great. And with that, back over to you, Madam Toastmaster. Yvette. General Evaluation.
All right, that was excellent. Thank you for all of that. Can we get a timers report?
Yes, Andrea, thank you for the feedback. You came in at 5 minutes and 32 seconds.
Thank you. All right, so now is time for my overall evaluation of the meeting. In general, I think it went really well. We had a smaller group tonight. Obviously, it's staying lighter later, a little bit warmer, so it's probably expected. I've not been here for a full year, but I'm assuming it gets a little bit lighter during these months. But overall, we had a really great showing. Thank you to our guests who showed up and who participated. That was wonderful. We started on time. One thing that is going to also become very difficult is that I'm assuming the air conditioning unit is very loud. So we are going to have to deal with that over the coming months and just use our loud voices, since this isn't a real microphone for the room here. It's just for our Zoom people. Thank you for the inspiration opening, Andrea, the kickoff by Vanessa, and overall being a Toastmaster, especially through Zoom, I know can be difficult when you're not in the room, but I thought you did an excellent job. So thank you for that. Our grammarian, Milton, thank you for introducing the word. I did not use it and probably will not use it, but thank you for introducing it. One tip for you is to make sure you explain what that word, how to use it throughout the meeting. So you did a great job explaining what it was, the definition, but one thing is just to let our guests know why we have a word of the day. Leon, great explanation of the timer role and great engagement with everybody. Also, thank you for all of your table topics. I thought you did an excellent job. Obviously, we got a very long evaluation and thorough evaluation from Andrea. So thank you for all of that. Heather and Vanessa, thank you for stepping up for the table topics, and to everybody who participated. It was great to see so many faces up here. I know it's really challenging and really stressful to be in this position, especially when it's impromptu. So thank you for everyone showing up there. One tip overall, especially that I noticed during table topics, is the space that we have. And so I know I'm personally not great yet at moving around, but some people are. And I noticed that some people were out here, which brings us out of Zoom territory. So just be aware for people on Zoom that we have to kind of stay back here in this area so they can see us. And that, I think, is everything for general evaluation. Thank you, everyone, for your roles tonight. And finally, I will turn it over to the grammarian.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. Okay, without running the risk of overlapping into a evaluator role, I'm just gonna cut straight to the point. Bill had a couple of fillers, couple of ums and hum, just 3, not too bad. See, I'm doing it like constantly now. Who else? Butterfly, none. Nobody else really, except for me. I'm going on my like 7th. You might have had one, I believe. That's about it. Grammar was pretty good. Delivery was pretty good. I think everyone's speeches kind of rolled off their tongues pretty well. That's about it. That's all I got for you guys. I hope I did an okay job. Who's next?
Thank you so much to our general evaluator and our grammarian. And that is really closing out our meeting. And I believe we do not have a ballot counter. Is that correct? Okay, cool. So everyone tonight is a winner technically. So thank you so much to everyone who participated in table topics, had the courage to come up, especially after Leon gave us a really hard act to follow with his table topics as our speaker. Thank you so much. It was great to hear from so many different people. And thank you to everyone who came up with really creative ways to incorporate our spring theme into tonight's meeting. I do want to make one final reminder for those who are able to attend Leon's Division C contest this Thursday night at 6:30. It is on Zoom. And I'm really bummed I have a work conflict, but if you are able to make 6:30 on Thursday, that would be great to support Leon as he competes and represents Queen City Toastmasters and our area as well. So excited for that. And with that, I will turn it over to any guests. We always like to hear from guests at the end of the meeting, what your thoughts were, and if you had any feedback for us. And I know we have a couple of guests in person. I don't believe we have any on Zoom at the moment, but I know we have a couple in person. So Eric, if you want to turn the mic over to our guests, if they have anything to add before we close out.
I'll invite each of them up front. So first one is Xavier.
Thank you. Tonight was a great night. I definitely do enjoy the impromptu speeches. You know, it brings me great joy, and just to speak to somebody, you know, I'm public. Obviously in work, I'm behind a desk, so I don't get the luxury of doing so. And thank you, Leon, for giving me that great inspirational motivation to get up and speak, and just that rapid fire of seeing how someone can go from day one and with Toastmasters to your level where you stand right now to, you know, being that comfortable. So I look forward to taking part with Toastmasters and getting to that level. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Xavier, for coming out and joining us tonight.
Thank you, Xavier.
Table topics.
Michael, was it? You come on up. So every meeting, we give our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves and then to give us their thoughts on the meeting afterwards. And part of it is to just give you an opportunity to come up and speak, which is what we want everybody who's at the meeting to get a chance to do. So please.
Well, I was told I should jump in the cold water, so I guess that's what I'm doing. And looking forward to learning better techniques and getting over my anxiety speaking, and yeah, I have a lot to learn.
Great job. I promise you, you don't feel any or very different than most of us felt the first few times we stood right here. So thank you for coming. And one more guest? Ron. Okay, come on up, Ron. Thank you.
I apologize for being tardy first and foremost, but good evening. My name is Ron. I joined on the Zoom. Yes, I joined on the Zoom maybe a couple weeks ago. I was here prior to COVID. I was coming to visit. COVID happened, the world went into disarray. However, I enjoyed the meeting online. I enjoyed the meeting tonight, the part that I did catch. And I would like to join eventually. I'm definitely looking forward to join because I got a lot of things I would like to work on, speaking, leadership, what have you, and just become part of the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. We would love to have all of you as members of our club, but you're welcome to join us as often as you like as a guest. I do have one bit of official business to do, and also to add that in addition to Leon competing on Thursday, Andrea will be competing, representing our club in the evaluation contest and representing Advanced Toastmasters, High Altitude Toastmasters in the International Speech Contest. And Andrea, last week we awarded Leon his much deserved trophy, and this week it is my pleasure to award it to Andrea for having placed first in our speech competition.
Yay.
Thank you. Are there any other announcements or orders of business that anybody would like to bring up at this time? I see, yes, Toastmaster David is giving me a signal, which means nothing less than a reminder to the club members to pay your semi-annual dues, because we want to have our club dues paid as early as possible, because we get club credit from Toastmasters by doing so. So if you have received an email from Jamie, the instructions are there, and the easiest way is to do it on Venmo. If you're not sure how to do so, you could reach out directly to Jamie Richardson or to me. And with that, I believe we can now officially bring our meeting to a close. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. And Andrea, I apologize. I neglected to mention that you were also competing and representing our club on Thursday night evaluation. Woo!